Hi, welcome to the 1 in 20 show, where we're looking to find the next 1 in 20 successful individuals who are pursuing their passions with success so that you can too. And today I'm joined by Sam Elkins.
How's it going, man? Thanks for having me on.
Yep, welcome to the show. It's exciting to have another person who's normally behind the camera.
Very true.
Now in front of it. You're from the Pacific Northwest, Washington area.
Yep.
When did you first pick up a camera? How did it all go down?
Yeah, so I'm from a small town called Auburn, just about 35 minutes south of Seattle, and I spent my entire life there. I'm 22 now, and I first picked up a camera. I was probably 15 or so, maybe.
Yeah.
Tracing way back when, I started with community service was actually a big thing back then. I did a lot in the community or whatever. I was a part of community service groups or whatever, and I got this opportunity to become. It's kind of it's like an internship group. So basically, it's in the Seattle area. It's called Teens in Public Service. So it's they pick 50 kids every summer, and basically this nonprofit called paraphrased as TIPS, Teens in Public Service. They pay people like me to go work at other nonprofits in the Seattle area. So basically it's kind of trickling down. So the nonprofit that I was actually working for was getting a free worker for the summer. I was getting paid, not a ton of money, but enough money to where it was worth it. And then it's just a cool circle of you're getting paid, you're getting really real life work experience as a 15-year-old kid. It's pretty awesome. And I was 15, but I'm trying to think everybody else was 18, 19, even just about to go to college. There was some Harvard acceptees, all that. And I thought why am I even, how did I get accepted to this? It's crazy. But after that I got assigned to this school. Is called I remember what it was called. Gosh, hold on. Okay, anyways. So basically I got assigned to this internship in SeaTac, which is right near the airport. And basically what I was doing is working with kind of underprivileged youth, kids who weren't necessarily from the greatest family background, or whatever.
Sure.
And we got to work with them for the summer. It was kind of a little summer camp kind of vibe. It was really fun, and they halfway through the summer gave me this kind of cheap Nikon DSLR to start taking photos of these kids. And I was wow. I don't know what this is, but I guess I'll try it out. And I started taking photos of these kids. It wasn't really portraits. I don't know what I was taking photos of at the time, but I thought it was fun. It was a blast. And at the end of the summer, I saved up some money. It was $500 or $600 and bought my first DSLR. And that was kind of the first really big moment where I was well, this is kind of fun. My parents were why are you spending money on a camera? This is so weird. And I was oh, no, it's kind of fun. And I'd played basketball. That was a big thing.
I was gonna ask,
a fellow tall person would know. So I played a lot of basketball, and so I just decided to switch to photography. I stopped playing basketball officially probably sophomore year of high school. But that's when I really started. I was wow, photography is really fun. I would go out almost every day if I could and go at least take some sunset pictures. I famously, there's this one beach in Federal Way, Washington, super random little beach, but I would go there as much as I could, especially in the summer. I'd go there every day.
Wow.
Just to go take the same take the same pictures.
Yeah.
I just
that's probably how you got better, right? I mean, just over and over.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. It was the kind of the first experience of well, this is kind of a blast. And then when I got a iPhone 5 for a Christmas present from my parents, and then I downloaded Instagram, started posting these crappy photos with an Instagram filter on it. I was this is kind of fun. And kind of from there, man, it just started kind of blowing up randomly. I had a buddy, Griffin Lamb, still a really good friend of mine. He doesn't do photography as much anymore, but we kind of just did it together. We're oh, this is kind of fun. We just started kind of gaining a pretty big following, and we thought it was really fun. And kind of from there it just started exploding.
Yeah. Well, and now I want to ask what brought you here, because obviously, being there and shooting, what was it that actually brought you down? Because you graduated high school.
Right. Yep.
And then
so I graduated. I was gonna go to art school. That's what my parents thought. That's what I thought. That's what kind of everybody thought. And then I had a thought in my mind. I'm well, I wonder if I could just try this out, see if I can even just do it on my own. Because I probably graduated high school with I don't know, 300,000 or 400,000 followers on Instagram or something. So it was cool. But what people don't realize is it was a completely different world. 4 or 5 years ago, the internet moves fast, right? And there's so much more money in it now than there used to be. It's just insane how much money there is now. But back then it wasn't.
Followings weren't the same back then.
No,
that was pretty big for 5 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was not even 5 years ago. That was probably 3 years ago when I graduated. But then still it wasn't what it is today, right? So I wasn't making very much money at all, but I had $5 or $6 grand saved up in the bank. I was all right, cool, maybe I'll just try this out. And I signed my parents down. It's I'm gonna move to Portland, Oregon, which is just the next town down for those who don't know Oregon, super close by. They were super supportive, but they were all right, well, you gotta pay all your own bills and do everything yourself. I was well, that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
So I did that. I moved down. It was a really hard first 6 or 7 months. I had like no money. I was just like, just enough to like buy food and fill up my gas tank halfway, like not all the way.
Typical, right?
Yeah, It was hard, and but I really wanted it to work. For the first time in my life, you got to think about like I had high school, right? Like I had to go there every day. It was set in stone. But then all of a sudden, I had all the time in the world to devote to photography, which is awesome. So like all that free time, it can be daunting, but it can also be like very motivating.
Yeah.
So I lasted there for about 6 or 7 months. I mean, did a stint in San Francisco, lived in Utah for a couple years, and then finally decided to move down here.
Wow. So that makes around 4 years now, technically, from high school to making that transition.
Just about 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's been a crazy ride. I'm very thankful for all the places that I've lived. I think they've all been, very, like, when I look back, they've all like brought me something in my life, whether that be like lifelong friends or, even just experiences I wouldn't have experienced otherwise. I think Utah specifically, it gave me a lot of chance to save money. Like my rent was only $400 a month, like, which for a huge room in a house, like people in California will, just scoff at that, but like,
well, it's like 3,000 plus for a 1-bedroom.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
yeah. It's crazy. So, moving there and just being able to save a lot of money was like awesome. I really worked hard into saving money. And then all of a sudden it's like, I got the opportunity. Like I live with really good friends of mine who decided to move down here at the same time. I was at their house. We just like had, we were having some beers or whatever. I had some dinner and we're like, all right, maybe we should just move down there. And like, I was like, all right, sounds good.
Well, so now I want to ask, because you did mention social media, and I don't like putting a number to people. Like, do you know what I mean? I feel like there's such a, I've talked about this a lot on here, but there's such a sense that with the number becomes the more importance, and
totally
it should, because you have an audience. But then again, at the same time, you're an artist, and that's, at the end of the day, that's who you are. But aside from that, what is the moneymaker for you? Because we'll get into kind of some of the like the sponsored stuff that you've done later. Absolutely. But are you making money off of Instagram? How does that whole thing work? YouTube, because I know you're getting there with YouTube as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, as of right now, it's a mix of like YouTube, Instagram, but then also like actual photography as well, and like, just to go back to the number thing for a second, like, I mean, I feel like some of the most talented photographers I know, nobody even knows about, like, or the ones that I look up to at least don't have massive followings on Instagram. It's great that I'm able to use the audience that I have, and like I realize they're all like actual real people.
We need to get you verified now.
Yeah, but
not yet. But
man, it's just like, it's crazy. It's cool at this, but at the same time, it's like, it's really, I don't know, making meaningful work is a lot more important to me than anything else. And I think like with that comes money. It's great, but that can't be your focus. Like money, followers, all that stuff. If that's your focus, you're gonna be so just disappointed and like, overwhelmed, all that stuff, like, but if you're actually like focused on your passion and like, what actually, you're excited about, whether that be photography, filmmaking, anything like that, if your focus is actually like making real good work, like the rest of it's going to come, and but to answer your question, YouTube is a huge thing now. I've hired a guy pretty much full time to do all of my video for me.
Wow.
Which has been awesome. It's been a crazy transition, but I frankly just don't have time to do the video, most of the video stuff. I do a video for myself every once in a while, but like if I go travel somewhere with my girlfriend, I'll make a video. But if we're in LA, he'll most likely be filming it, or someone else, if I can find them. It's cool though, because at the beginning, YouTube wasn't like a big thing for me. I took a lot of the money I made in photography and invested it kind of in the form of like hiring people. And it wasn't really worth it at first. I was losing a lot of money, but then now it's to the point where like I'm making money on top of like, even if while paying them. All I have to do is just sit in front of the camera, talk, plan out all the videos. Yeah. They'll film it and edit it, and then boom. Like, because
I've seen some of your personal videos and they're awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
But I'm glad that you identify like that, I'm making money off of my photo work.
Totally. And
from there, like, I think it's really cool that you enlist somebody else to do that work, because there's so many hungry artists that I feel, it's good to be multifaceted and be good at photo video, because it's the same beast. Absolutely. Almost.
Yeah.
But that is cool that you did that. And now kind of going a little bit toward the money thing, you've done, I'm looking right now again, you've done work with Land Rover, Under Armour, Armani, which is amazing, Italian company. When you're 22 and, working with such big brands like that.
Yeah.
Brands that have made a huge impact on each of those industries.
Totally.
What does a shoot like that look like when you come down to that? Because, it's like, do you feel that it's like, oh, it's just a normal shoot, or is there like a ton of pressure when you go and do something like that? Yeah. What's the turnaround? All that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think a common misconception is like the kind of like, for lack of a better word, content that's going to be delivered, like, there's tons of different like variations of it now especially with social media, like, a social media post is now a deliverable, and it didn't used to be. Like,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's like, and like traditional photographers, like they don't give a shit about that. It's like, but for me, it's like it's a pretty big moneymaker. It's cool, but like so like usually how it'll work is I'll have a mix of like digital, like content, like whether that be photo and video for like social and digital and sometimes print distribution, which is awesome. And then on top of that, it would be like some sort of like social posts or whatever, maybe some Instagram stories, YouTube videos, something like that. But yeah, I think it's very circumstantial with each brand. Depends what they want. If they want your audience, or if they want your actual like photography work. Usually it's a mix, which is kind of like what I feel like I can use to separate myself from everybody else. Is like what I'm trying to build right now is like I'm not trying to be just a photographer. I'm trying to build like top tier quality photography and video. Whether that means I feel like now my video guy is at the point where like he's at the quality that I feel like my photography is. Like he's amazing, and like so top tier photo and video quality work paired with like large social media audiences, like that creates like massive budgets, and
isn't that yeah, it blows my mind. This is something I actually talked a little bit about in previous episodes, and even just with my friends.
Yeah,
and from somebody who's content creating now, seeing how brands are all taking to social media.
Oh, yeah.
Huge brands, right?
Totally.
Like Armani is a huge clothing brand.
Yeah.
Like a huge clothing brand. Totally. And Land Rover is a massive car company.
Yeah.
All of these huge, big top of the line companies are going down to something like this.
Totally.
To advertise instead of billboards.
Well, it's like, I mean, what people might or might not realize is that like, yes, they could spend, $50 million on like a massive ad campaign that'll go on TV and stuff. But think about it. Like when you're watching TV, when I'm watching TV, I'm either fast forwarding the commercial or I'm looking at my phone. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't the ad just be on my phone? Or like,
yeah, nobody's watching the car commercial.
No, it's becoming like such an outdated form of advertising. It's crazy how fast it's happening. I think like, you could do that, or you could pay, like a photographer or like, a blogger, like anybody, pay them like 50 grand to do like a huge ad campaign for you. Instagram stories, Instagram posts, tweets, YouTube videos, like there's real people watching that. And like, it's such like a focused community for each creator. Like think about it, like even for me or for like some of my friends, it's so different for each person. Like the people that choose to subscribe and follow to your life, like, or whatever you decide to post and share. And if you've created a decent brand for yourself, they're going to trust whatever you're promoting most of the time. Like for me, I'm pretty picky with who I work with. Yeah. And I like to promote brands that actually like, I'm like, yeah, I would buy that, and like, but then like, coming from like someone who's following, a person like me maybe, or someone else, like, of course they're going to take a look at it. It's such like a more effective way of marketing and advertising versus like a traditional TV ad or billboard. It's
well, like, and it is just wild to think about that. I mean,
it's changing right before our eyes, honestly. Like
it really is. Like I don't know. I get passionate about it because it's so interesting to me. I just can't imagine these multi-million-dollar, some billion, the car companies, billion-dollar companies. Absolutely. The whole traditional flow of a film set and the purpose of car commercials is like, why would they don't even need to put money toward that anymore. I mean, there are like, the older generation than millennials than us are watching that because they watch the game, or but then again, it's like all the youth is on social and they're looking.
It just it depends like kind of who you're trying to reach, I think, as far as like your target audience. But like I think there's still a place for that. It's just a lot harder as like a creator to get there. And I'm trying to like I said, I want to bridge the gap between like that crazy car commercial and like an Instagram post. I want to be somewhere in the middle. I don't want to be just posting Instagram photos. It's boring, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to even get there, at least for now. Like, so for now I'm going to like work with what I have and like bridge those together. But like, I think there's a time and place for both, but like, especially if you're trying to reach the youth, like there's no better way, honestly. Yeah,
it's in the, I mean, I've heard somebody say, and I think it was like one of my grandparents or something said like, the future's in the hand of the youth. Because I mean, it's always been said, but I think now more than ever, because of how influential it is on people's careers, companies make or break, new companies, I think, make or break on social.
Absolutely.
Or on YouTube or,
Yeah.
it's streaming. It's all of it.
Totally.
It's all that stuff. Well, I guess for you on the come up, when you started realizing that you were, what's the feel? Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is what's that feeling like to have you with your camera?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It's like an entity, you and your camera, and started posting and started getting better and better as a photographer.
Yeah.
And then seeing an audience match that, because I think nowadays the effort thing is really tough for people. They want to give up when they don't get recognized.
Yeah.
How do you balance that? How, like as somebody who has an audience readily available, are there risks? How do you know that what I'm kind of getting at?
Kind of, I think like I don't know. I think for a lot of people, like they don't realize how much work actually goes into like creating like a brand, whether that be for yourself or with other people, like whatever that is. It takes a lot of work, like years and years and years and years. And I think everyone, especially young people now, are like so fed up with like they don't want to wait. They don't want to put in the work. They just want it right now, and like it's just not going to work that way. Like I've been doing this for like 6 years, and I would say the past 2 years have been like very successful years. Like if you don't hustle, you're not going to make it anywhere, especially as like an entrepreneur. Most people should know that, but I think like dude, like you can never think that you're too good. Especially this is what I try to tell myself a lot. You can't think that you're too good to go out and like go get the work. Half the time I'm like pitching. I have a manager, an agent, which is really nice. But me and him working together all the time, like to pitch stuff on, my behalf. He'll help me, or whatever. Like, or if I'm thinking I want to pitch something to somebody, like you got to be able to do that too. You can't just. A lot of people just sit and wait for something magical to happen. And like, to be honest, there's too many people now that try to do this. And it's great. It's cool that it's even a thing and people are trying to do it. But like, if you actually want to be making like good money, or you want to be like, like a solidified like photographer or whatever, like someone who's making money with this, like you got to really put in the work.
Because exactly. And I was just going to echo that, because for me, like I've come up in that same way as far as rehearsing what I'm doing, practicing. But I don't have that audience, right? Now, the interesting thing to me is I've been trying a ton of different mediums in the arts because I want to see which one allows for growth.
For me. Kind of takes off,
getting an audience. This is that for me. This is not my main thing. This is like my third, like my tertiary world. But it's opening up so many different opportunities.
Totally.
And something I kind of talk about with my guests a lot is do you limit yourself to only what you want to do? Do you have to, this is kind of self-explanatory. Do you have to see a wide array of, especially in the arts, do you have to do film if you're going to do photography, and you have to, maybe, I don't know, not necessarily model, but you know what I mean? You have to know every aspect.
No, I think personally the most successful people I know are very focused on one thing. One of my really good friends, I used to have a studio with him in Utah, Aaron Brimhall. He's an amazing like photography, shoots motorcycles, cars and stuff, but that's all he does. And like he gets hired by literally every brand on earth in that sphere to like do work for them, right? And like it depends. I personally think it's a lot easier to be really great at very few things versus like kind of mediocre at a lot of things, but then it draws back to like, I really wanted to do YouTube and video, but like you can't. I think this is on a podcast. Do you know who Alex Stroll is? Have you heard of him?
Somewhat,
really
familiar.
Really talented photographer or whatever. Okay. You should look him up sometime, but he kind of echoed this thing of like basically like you can't be afraid to spend money to make money, and especially like where I was at maybe like 1 or 2 years ago, like where I had a little bit of money to like actually invest. I could buy a bunch of camera gear. I could like blow it on a trip, or I could like pay someone to help me, and like I think like now, it's almost been a year since I've hired my video guy. His name's Ben. He does amazing work, but I think it's like you need help, like especially for me, like I need help to keep growing and scaling the business. Like I can't do it alone anymore. I can focus on what I do and what I know I can do well, but like if there's stuff I don't know how to do, don't be afraid to like have someone help you out. Like there's like a bunch of people in this room helping you out right now. Like exactly the point. Like you can only do so much as a single person, and like once you figure out what you're good at, stick to it, and like have people help you with the other stuff.
Because it's been told to me many times, and something we're practically the same age. I'm 20, 22. And we're kind of going at this whole thing. I personally feel, for me, I would be way further ahead if I wasn't in school right now. You know how that's, it can be kind of a setback, but at the same time, like, I know it's good for me in the end.
Oh, dude.
It's just kind of, I feel I would be able to have made bigger steps because I'd have more time. Right.
Totally.
But yeah, exactly what you were saying. I mean, it's something I think people get really discouraged when they, like I said, you don't really have an audience.
Yeah.
And for people who are on the come up, especially in photography, which is, I want to say on Instagram, that's probably the hardest thing to, unless you're trying to be like a personality, but that's like the hardest thing to be noticed at.
You just got to really like enjoy what you do. Like, you can't, nobody enjoys copying other people and like posting the same shit, you know, like, like, especially, that's like why I left the Northwest in the first place, is like, I just needed like a fresh place to, like, you know, Portland wasn't really that, but like Salt Lake City and San Francisco and now LA are definitely that, you know. It's like, frankly, nobody's gonna hire you if you're posting photos of your feet dangling out of a helicopter, or like, you know, I'm serious. It's like, or like,
it's so true.
Yeah, I mean, respect, you know, like, no hard feelings. I used to do that stuff as well, you know, or like campfires or whatever. But like, to me, that's just like, no one's gonna notice you, you know. Like, you gotta. That's especially why I started doing a lot of portrait stuff, because I felt like it was harder to be good at that.
Yeah.
And like, for me, that was like, all right, cool. Well, I'll try to do something that I think is kind of hard right now, and I'm gonna try my best to like work really hard at that, be the best that I can be, you know, and like just strive towards greatness, you know.
Yeah. Well, and being one of your audience members and seeing that, I've seen. We have a friend, Matt Moissant. Do you know who that is? Does that sound familiar to you? He's from where you're from.
Cool.
He's does a lot of kind of what you do.
Okay.
And
cool.
he was shooting a couple of years ago. He was shooting a lot, and then he shot a lot, and now he moved back up to Washington because that's where he's from.
Yeah.
And has done some beautiful stuff. But I see a lot of his style, you know, kind of as similar to yours.
Yeah.
So this is now segueing into not completely in detail, but kind of what is your edit style? Like, when you approach something to shoot, and you have a model, because I think portraiture is pretty amazing. The way that you have been able to integrate an incredible backdrop with a shallow look, but still with clarity and a little bit of a faded film look.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
When you come about, you know, editing, you take your photo and you import it.
Yeah.
What's the first thing you think of? Is there a mood? Is it a place? Like, what evokes the way you edit that photo?
Well, I think, like, honestly, as of recent, that's why I've been shooting so much film, is because I love how like raw it is, you know, like analog. Like, I don't have to do anything to it. Like, and like I do enjoy editing. I like the process, but like, I think for me, I try to do as much in camera as possible, whether that be, you know, like custom settings or like whatever, like white balance, all that stuff needs to be perfectly dialed, and like therefore I barely have to do anything, you know. I you know, adjust the tone curve a little bit, I like whatever may have you, like HSL, that fun stuff, but like, honestly, like, so much of it is done like in camera, and I think that's what people don't really realize. And like, I think people nowadays are trying so hard to emulate other people. It's like really hard. I think that's why I've been shooting film like pretty regularly now for the last like 5 or 6 months, and I think that even is like unique in itself now, is like, film is like impossible to replicate. Like, nobody can go take, if it's a different camera, it reads the light differently, and like the film is exposed differently, like it's gonna be a different photo, you know. And like, yeah, man, I think like style is super important, but it's also like subject matter, all that stuff is so important. Like, all of it combined together is like what creates a style, you know. And like, editing is a huge part of that, and like it can really like make or break your image depending on how you edit it. But I think like, you know, all the in-camera stuff, all of like the stuff you do even before you press the shutter, I do so much research on locations. I'm very picky about who I shoot with, because I want, especially who I shoot with, to reflect well on me, you know. And like, I want, especially like the people I'm shooting, I want to be able to imagine them in like campaigns that I'm shooting, you know. Like, like, I want all that to like mesh really well together. All that pre-production stuff before you even touch the camera is so important as well, you know. Like, all that combined, down all the way down to the edit, and like all that stuff is just so important. But it's like, it's so many little things like that you have to do well in order for it to go well, you know. Like, you can have the best editing style in the world, and you can have the best camera in the world, but if you have no idea what you're doing, like location wise, or how to direct someone or whatever it may have you, like, it's not going to be a good photo, you know. And like, I think people might be realizing that slowly, but I think like it takes a lot of work, like in all aspects, you know.
I agree. Well, and I think that's really refreshing, because so many people who don't really understand like the exposure triangle and how to use your shutter angle and everything like that won't properly know how to expose, and they'll over or under expose, and then they get to the edit and they're like, what do I do?
Yeah, totally.
And then they just cake on filters, right? I mean, that's kind of how I think everybody starts. That was me.
When I think, and I think too, like, people think that they need the exact camera as someone, you know, like, I'm sure, you know, like, I love, like, Sam Colder's work. I think it's incredible.
Yeah,
like,
he's awesome.
He's super unique, and I love it. And, like, but now everybody's copying his style. They buy the same camera that he has. They do all this stuff. You know, to be fair, I have the exact same camera that he does. But, like,
the orange cyan look thing.
Yeah, but, like, you know, you get what I'm saying? That, like,
you
don't have to just look at someone from all the way down to the bottom and be like, copy this, copy this, copy this, copy this, copy this. Because, like, then you're actually, you're going to have a copy, but he's going to do it better, you know, because that's something that he created by himself. And, like, that's what people, I think, eventually will realize. Yeah. I think it takes time, you know, and, like,
because it's all about likes and followers. I mean, nobody on Instagram, nobody cares about making a piece of art. And something that you said earlier, everybody's kind of not copying each other, but there's nothing new under the sun, right? Everybody has a look that's already existed.
Totally.
I think because of Ansel Adams, somebody like that who started all of that.
You can take bits and pieces from people's work and be like, I love it. You know, maybe you watch a YouTube video, I'm like, I love the way that these angles were shot, you know? Is maybe it's like super low to the ground or whatever. I loved like the drone work or whatever. You can take bits and pieces and be inspired by people, but there's no reason to like copy word, you know, verbatim. It's like, it's not interesting, you know?
No.
Like, people...
Not original.
Yeah, exactly. When it doesn't, you know, originality is such like probably an overused word today, especially in this world, you know? But I think... all you got to do is just take bits and pieces from like people whose work you really love and enjoy and apply it to your own work, you know, like really maybe I think a lot of people aimlessly go out and take photos thinking that they're going to make something amazing, you know, and for me, it's like, I've really focused a lot in the last year, like being intentional when I go shoot. I'm like, what am I actually trying to take a photo of? Like, what is, you know, is this going to help my portfolio? Is this, you know,
isn't that half the battle?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you say that?
Yeah. And like, you got to like, for me, it's like, I really want to think about what I'm trying to take a photo of and what's that's going to do for me, you know, like maybe for this one shoot I want to focus just on movement, you know, and like that's all the shoot's going to be about. Maybe I'm shooting a model, it's all about hair movement, it's all about, you know, hands, like details, or it's, you know, all that stuff. It's like you got to have a focus, right? You can't just go out there and like blindly take photos and you're like, oh, that looks good, and then you get back and you're like, what was I even trying to do in the first place? Like, so that's pretty tough sometimes, you know.
Yeah, well, and that's what's interesting about the digital. I was going to talk to you about this anyway, but the digital versus film argument, because digital is so sharp, the sensors are so much stronger. But then again, right, it comes down to lens choice, and it comes down to you know, the type of film when you actually shoot film. When it comes time to choose one or the other, because I know you shoot both. Is it just dependent on the day? Is it dependent on the shoot? How you're feeling? What is it that makes you choose digital or?
Yeah, totally. I think people think right now that like just because it's shot on film, it's like an amazing photo. Like probably not most of the time. You know, like for me though, it's a lot dependent on whether I'm making money on it. If I really need like sharp in focus photos, I'll most likely always choose digital. But usually for like if I'm going on like a road trip or whatever, like with my girlfriend, or like we're going maybe on like a weekend trip somewhere in California, like almost always bring film, just because I love like the raw look.
It's a look.
When it's like I feel like I'm actually there. All the photos are much more real to me. They aren't perfected like digital photos are right now, you know, like they're not all shot at 1.4 with everything tack sharp, and like, but sometimes you need that, you know, and that's what digital's for. I think it varies a lot though. Like, but if it's personal, usually film.
That's a really good way to put it. I think I've gathered that. You know, I mean, the more that you look at people's work, it's like, okay, he shot that because it's a memory, or you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that leads me into asking, what was I going to ask along those lines? Do you have a favorite brand, like a make of a lens that you like to use for either or? I mean,
I've always used Canon pretty much since day one. I've had a Nikon was my very first camera, like I said, but nothing beats Canon colors, in my opinion. You know, like people ask why I lug around the 1DX. It's like the heaviest camera in the world, but to me, like Canon colors are so much better than Sony, and like, you know, Sony's like getting there, and eventually they might get there, and I'll switch maybe. But for now, Canon's great, and I use my favorite film camera is probably like Mamiya. Mamiya makes insanely sharp glass, and their bodies are beautiful. So as far as like medium format, it's really nice. Yeah,
well, that's great. All that camera stuff is great for any camera nerds out there who are listening, because I'm sure you'll be listening. Now I kind of want to talk about you. There's something that I feel this is, I think, what this show really lives and dies on is the importance of the person behind the camera, behind the account, behind, you know,
Totally.
A lot of times I feel most people will, not podcasters specifically, but content creators skip the fact that these are real people.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you right now are a real person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Outside of the Instagram.
We're all real people. Yeah.
Yeah. Outside of the Instagram profile, and we're just doing this together and collaborating on something, which is really cool. I mean, podcast is a new medium for that, really. What are some of your inspirations? That's a good kind of place to start, whether it be filmmakers or, because I know you shoot some film stuff, like film stuff. Who are some of your inspirations? Is there any, like, anything, color palettes? Like, what is it that kind of like sets you on fire to want to keep pursuing your own stuff?
I think like a lot. I mean, I do have some favorite photographers, like Jared Chambers, one of my favorites. Jake Stengel, really amazing like advertising photographer, shoots pretty much all of his work from what I've seen on like medium format film. It's beautiful. Two like my favorites for sure. But yeah, I think like a lot of it has to do with where I am, who I'm with, what I'm surrounded by. You know, if something's just like different that day, it's cool. You know, like, and I think I've worked really hard to be more inspired by like the day to day, not just like the epic trips and stuff, which is pretty easy to get inspired by.
I mean, LA even, I mean, I know a lot of people move here for that. I grew up here, so it's a little different for me. But I mean, every time I go down there, I get inspired by something.
Totally.
Because you're in Silver Lake. That's actually one of my favorite places to be.
Just like to me, like it's such a nostalgic neighborhood. Like I love throwing on a podcast and like walking around with my film camera at sunset. It's like my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
And like you just get inspired by like where I live or where I work or who I'm working with or you know, people that are in my life. All that stuff is just super inspirational to me, and it can be interpreted in many different ways depending on like what you want it to be, you know. I think that's cool. Sure. The cool thing about photography is you can make whatever you want, you know. And we were just talking about how people copy each other, but like it's so much more fun to just like do what you actually love, you know. Like shoot what you actually love. Like, I mean, like, it's
modeling yourself after somebody that you look up to.
Totally.
But then again, like if you copy them,
I mean, it is super easy to get wrapped up in it, and I get that, but like at the same time, it's like, man, there's so much like fulfillment and like just like pride and like doing what you love and like actually just going for it, you know. Like it feels so good. So.
Photography itself is so simple.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is simple. Like I think people blow it up to be something more than it is, but it's you with a camera and somebody else or a landscape, you know, a background. That's an aside, but I was going to go into we kind of touched on how hard you have to work to get where you want to be. That's something we talk about every episode. And I think it's kind of the mission statement of the show kind of reflects that. You got to see that earlier today. Speak to the people who are trying to get on the come up and there's just so many obstacles. What is it that keeps you going? You know?
Yeah, I think that changes so much. I think in the beginning it was just like the excitement that I didn't know everything. That was like fun to me, like figuring it out, you know. And that's kind of what I feel right now with video. It's like I have no idea what I'm doing. It's fun, you know. Like I'm learning so much just working with talented people and figuring my way through. Like to me, that's really fun in the beginning, especially it's just like and enjoy like just the process of it all. You know, like you can't just be worried on the end, like the end note. You know, like I'll be making $500,000 a year or whatever. Like cool, but like what are you gonna do to get there? And like you gotta. The majority of this is going to be the process, and like. You can't have an end goal, because then when you get to the end goal, surprise, you're not going to be happy. You know, like you gotta just really enjoy the process and like be like just to have fun with it. You know, like have fun waking up at 5 a.m. and going and shoot sunrise, and like have fun driving 500 miles in a day or more. You know, like all that stuff is just you gotta really like just love it. You know, and above anything else, like if you have that and you're like actually really proud of the work that you're creating and you feel like you're actually making work for yourself and not for other people or to copy other people, like you feel like you're making at least to you, like raw, real, original work, like everything's gonna fall into place, you know. Like, but you really got to believe it. Like, it takes a really strong belief that you can do it, and a lot of like just sleepless nights and really early mornings and all that stuff, you know. Yep,
and that's what you hear from everybody. I mean, that's everybody from Abe Kitzelvitz at GoPro to Chris Ray at DC and all these guys who have, you know, quote unquote made it. And I don't think they're 100% content. You know, there's a level of making it versus contentedness where, you know, it seems what I gather from you is you're a pretty driven person. I mean, it seems as if you work really, really hard. That is super important, that tireless energy. And I've even seen that with myself in the last year-ish that I felt like I've really pushed myself hard.
Yeah.
Over probably the last, I mean, I picked up a camera when I was like 10, so 10 years. But I didn't really start taking it serious till later on. And then when I started this, I had started it as kind of a joke, to be very fair.
Yeah.
Me and Chris were just doing it together and kind of messing around.
Yeah.
And then I had a mentor of mine tell me, like, what are you doing? Like, you should really do something with this. And now, I mean, we started it in July. And it's almost December, and 6 months later, getting to do stuff with you,
it's great,
and
dude. Yeah.
Other people, and really grow the platform.
Totally,
it's awesome. And
you gotta like celebrate those like little victories too. You know, like you can't just be so focused on the end goal that like, you know, you do something like kind of cool, and you gotta like be happy for yourself. You know, that you're like you're making progress, and like.
But isn't it ironic though that it's like it is a little victory, but we're just sitting here talking.
Oh, absolutely.
As normal people.
Yeah.
And that's what it's people. It's not totally. Like, you know,
absolutely.
what I mean?
No,
it's crazy.
I get it though. Yeah. It's you really do got to like celebrate those little victories though. Like that's so important. Like, you know, for me, whether it be like I lock in a new client that I'm super happy about, or like I deliver content that I'm like stoked on, you know, like that too. Like all that stuff is like, those are like little victories that you can be proud of, you know, and like the more you emphasize that, the more like the process seems like okay, you know, like it seems like you can actually do it. Cause like, especially for me, like I remember when I made like my first couple $100 like doing a senior photo shoot, like when I was like 16, like that was like such a liberating thing, you know, like I can make money on something that I love and I don't have to like work at my job anymore, you know, like it's amazing, you know, and using that to like fuel this is like, you know, not hard at all, you know, like especially if you like just really believe in what you're doing, like sky's the limit.
That kind of goes into what defines success. I talk about that a lot. I mean, we're beating around the bush because we already kind of talked about it, but are you successful if you start making money at what you do? And ultimately, for me, that's the end all be all. If I'm making money, like the definition of it, and I'm growing as a person, and I'm making more money at it, that to me is end all be all. I don't know what your perspective on that is.
I mean, I think it's whatever you don't have. That's what you think success is. Like for me, it's like maybe when I was like just bumming it out in Portland in my apartment, you know, I was like I didn't have any money. I was like, well, maybe if I had money, that I would feel a lot better about what I'm doing, you know. But then maybe I got money, and I'm like, well, now I want to do something else. You know, it's always the next thing, I think, for people. And like once you get that thing, you realize that it's actually not that. You know, I think it's much more for me like fulfillment, happiness in what I'm doing, like being proud of the work that I'm creating. That above anything else is success to me. And like, I think like there's no end point with success necessarily. It's just an ongoing thing. And then, you know, that success, the definition for each person might change over time, but whatever you're feeling at the moment that you need to keep doing, that, you know, that usually pushes people to where they're at today.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of artists, that's like a hill to die on when when you feel like you're not reaching your goals or you're not successful by your own standard. And I think some, like, I don't know if you're like this, but I think some artists are really, really, really hard on themselves to the point where they are successful by...
I'm my worst critic, dude. Like, as are most people, you know, like I think that you have to be. You can't just wait for other people to critique you, or else you're going to get upset. You know, like you can't think your work is better than it actually is. Well, no, this has been a great conversation. I really like what we've uncovered, you know, because there's so much, again, behind the camera. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't get the chance to like open up usually as much as like I probably would like, and it's cool like for people to hear like the backstory of like what is actually transpiring, you know, like what's going on.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah. Really cool. Well, Sam, thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely,
really
man.
Appreciate it. What's your tag? You want to throw out your tag? I think it's Sam what?
Yeah, search me up, Samuel Elkins.
Samuel Elkins. Yeah, find him on Instagram. Look at his great photography. And last thing I forgot to mention or ask you, future plans. Do you have anything kind of on the docket that you're trying to get off?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I moved here for a reason. That reason wasn't necessarily to just keep doing what I was doing as far as photography goes. I really want to be doing like bigger less projects, but like way bigger than what I'm doing or what I have been doing. And also I think I really want to step into like the directing world, start directing video.
Good for you.
Yeah, so I'm going to take kind of the clients I've done with photography and start pitching them on video ideas that I'll be directing. I won't even be touching the camera, hopefully. So all that moving forward, I just want to keep like growing the business and being happy with what I'm doing. So.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah. Well, thanks for watching, guys. This is really exciting. I mean, Sam, to have you on and to keep moving forward. We got a lot of really cool people coming on that are just like Sam.
Can't wait, dude. Yeah.
Photographers and different artists that are really working hard and pursuing their passions with success. And that's the hardest thing about, going at what you love. And, is it worth it? When do I have to be realistic with myself? And I think if you push hard enough, and you've heard it from so many people, hopefully you get to a place where you feel like you're doing well. Hopefully, that's the goal.
Totally.
Follow along with us. For those of you listening, we're now, you'll figure this out, but we're now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as of today, which you'll see this next week. But super excited about that. That's a huge step. I finally made the podcast an actual podcast, because before it was just on a YouTube channel.
Hey, it's awesome.
And people and people were telling me like, okay, well, I can't just sit here with my YouTube player on my phone. I can't turn it off. So I'm glad that we're on that. I'm really excited for you guys to have this be more accessible. For those of you watching, we're on YouTube as normal. Make sure you follow us. That would be really awesome. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at 1 in 20 Show. So if you find us at any one of those places, that'd be great. We're really growing the platform. Excited for what is coming in the new year, as well as coming up. We're super stoked. I'm excited. I can't say anything, but we're definitely growing a lot, leaps and bounds. And so keep pushing forward, guys. Thank you for watching and for supporting the mission of the show.